Hello, Professor. Garrett here. So as you know, as you can tell, I'm doing a TED Talk for my final exam. Instead of the paper, I think it's easier, a little more quicker, I'd say. So during this time, I'm going to talk about some specific points such as how to deal with resistance or problems, communication, certain leadership, how I think I did, how I did that myself, or at least I think so, and how others did it, and other points as you will soon hear. So in the beginning of this class, the first class we talked about servant leadership, and I didn't really know what servant leadership meant. My first impression of it was serving, leading others by serving, and that's a very broad definition that doesn't really give you any details or specifics of what it is or what it entails. So from the start, didn't really know what it was. I just knew it was a word with the definition, and that was that. But as the semester kind of went through, I kind of started to get the sense of what it actually is in my own perspective. So personally, I think I demonstrated this a little bit in my fraternity. So as you know, I'm a senior, and as you probably don't know, I am the VP of Finance for my fraternity, which is kind of an up and down job, has pros and cons. Basically, I collect people's money and I budget it for stuff we do throughout the whole semester. And in this role, obviously, I'm on e-board and a senior, so people look up to me as a leader, especially the freshmen and the sophomores, the lower classmen. And as his job, the biggest thing in his job is I collect dues, and I would have many people come up to me, or many of the guys come up to me and say, hey, I can't get, X amount of money in by this date. And in the beginning, I would say, I'm sorry, but, you have to get that in. If you don't, then we have the right to drop you from this fraternity. Obviously, I don't want that, but just figure it out. And that wasn't a good way to approach that situation. And I kind of started to steer towards a different direction. So later, I think it was in the first month of the semester, a guy came up to me and said, hey Garrett, I'm having family problems with money issues and I just can't pay it all at once. Is there anything you can do? And instead of me saying, you know what, it's not my problem, it's your problem, I said, you know what, let me send you this contact and get you a job on campus. And a week later, he texted me back and said, Garrett, dude, I got a job, thank you so much. Now I will be happy to, get the dues in. Just thank you for doing this for me when you didn't have to. I think that is a good example of servant leadership because it's going out of my way to help others when I don't need to. I mean, obviously I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think that's a good way that I saw it from my own perspective. And going back to Cashman's book, on the topic titled Developing the Resilience to Thrive and Change, on page 117, David Prosser, he interviews someone named David Prosser, and he is a very wealthy executive. And externally, he is successful by every measure. Huge house, rich, nice car, it all looks really nice. But he wanted to change himself. And a quote he said is, change is a door that can only be opened from the inside. And I think that is a pretty powerful quote because it holds so much truth behind it. Now, I'm not saying I changed a lot, but I noticed something that I didn't like about myself, and I changed it by helping others in my fraternity. Moving on to this class. I took that same approach, though it was later in the semester. I should have done it in the beginning of the semester, but I didn't. Later in the semester, I kind of asked my team, what can I do to help? What else can I do to make this better? What can I do to help you finish this paper? Can I proofread? Do you want me to do this? Do this? And I did that in the end of the semester when it was needed, but also I could have improved myself by doing that from the start. Moving on, I think a servant leader and a business person do coincide. Being a servant leader is something that fosters relationships, especially with employees. That is a huge deal. If you have happier employees, that can often lead to better performance. So I do believe that having this mentality of a servant leader is very applicable to the real world in businesses. Moving on to my group more specifically, besides me, McKay and Laura Lynn, they, based on every endeavor we took, shown servant leadership. They took on so much work, way more than they needed to. They always went the extra mile. As you will read in my assessment if you haven't already, they took on the whole weight of formatting it, proofreading it, make sure everything looks good by themselves. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just they didn't ask for my help, and they took that upon themselves to do it. And that is a great example of servant leadership. They led our team by doing more work than they needed to do. Moving on to the key takeaways from this class. I learned that communication is good. Being assertive is necessary, as with Victor's situation. Telling him, hey, you're not doing your stuff on time. Get your life together. Get this in. We have to do it. That can be very successful, and it did prove successful in our specific situation, the team. And that's a problem that I think is very applicable to real world, because in real world you will have people who slack, especially at work, and that sometimes you may need to step up and voice your opinion to them. And also, lastly, one big key takeaway is deadlines. As a college student, you would think that deadlines should be easy by now, but everyone struggles with them. Everyone procrastinates in one way or another. And I think setting internal deadlines is good, which I have never really done for myself. I've always only followed the deadlines on the syllabus. And I think that by doing internal deadlines, you give yourself time to not only finish it, but to perfect it before it's actually due. So given all that I just talked about, moving forward, I think this class is very applicable. It teaches us a lot of life skills that the real world incorporates. And I think personally for me, it is very useful. One, on receiving feedback and deadlines. As someone like myself who's going to the corporate world, Ernst & Young, big accounting firm, with things like 6 different promotion levels, every level has feedback incorporated into it. And I will get feedback, I think, biannually or annually, I'm not sure. I will get feedback every year from my supervisors, and if I don't improve on that feedback, then I will not be promoted. And I think during this class, I've learned how to take feedback and make it into a learning opportunity. So I will definitely be using that, I think so, in the near future. Other than that, Professor, I know I'm 3 minutes over my time, but I just want to say thank you. It's been an awesome class. At first, it was a little dry, I'll be honest, with this, chapter 1, chapter 2. It did get kind of boring, but I think it definitely started to ramp up a lot more as the semester went on. That one class that we did with the blindfolded game and with all the games in class, that class was so fun. I literally texted all my friends, like, guys, I just had the most awesome class of my life. It was such a good time. I think, you steered this class in a great direction by doing that, because that kind of revitalized us, as it was getting kind of dry with all the chapter presentations. And also, besides the class, you're an awesome professor. You're an awesome person. I remember that one time we talked for like 45 minutes about life, and that's something that not every professor can have or can do with any student. So thank you, Professor. I apologize for going over, but I hope you enjoyed my video. I will be here next semester, so I'll definitely let you know how my Ernst & Young internship goes.